issue, and Peter Riggs, the Director of Public Works, City of Burlington, and Steve Rauch, an Alderman from the City of Burlington, are going to talk about the Echo Lake Dam.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today to the Veterans Terrace here in scenic, lovely, beautiful Burlington, Wisconsin, right on the shores of the White River, just north of the confluence with the Fox River. And behind you, if you've been here before, you get this beautiful scenic backdrop of Echo Park, Echo Lake, and the Echo Lake Dam. So what Alderman Rauch and I are going to talk to you about today is our spillway compliance issue that we have with the Echo Lake Dam. So just a little brief history. Echo Lake Dam is located on the White River. So when you're looking out the window here, that's not the Fox, it's the White. Fox is right over there, just a little ways down the road. The dam was built in about 1835 as a source of power generation for flour mills and sawmills and other industry. It hasn't served that purpose since about 1933, when the dam and most of the parkland here was gifted to the City of Burlington from the Wisconsin Electric Power Company. We became the owners of the dam at that point. The dam itself, just a couple of the demographic pieces. It's a 10-foot tall concrete dam, 240-foot long uncontrolled spillway, which creates that nice waterfall effect. And then it has a single 16-foot wide tanker gate. So here are the current concerns. In 2015, the City of Burlington performed a dam failure analysis at the request of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. That DFA came back and gave us a hazard classification of high hazard initially. We performed some downstream zoning changes, which resulted in a significant hazard classification for the dam moving forward. As such, NR 333.07 that everyone has memorized tells us that it must contain the 500-year flood, modeled 500-year flood within the spillway of the dam. We are unable to do that. As you can see, this graphic here is kind of hard to see, but that graphic shows the dam right here does not contain the 500-year flood of the yellow waters that inundate most of downtown Burlington. We learned a little bit of this lesson on how our dam performs in a historic flood in 2017. And about a 200-year event came through town. The dam did overtop, but it didn't breach. Floodwaters did come through Echo Park over the top of the earthen berm that is next to the dam, but the dam didn't fail. It held. And I think we have learned a few things about why that might have happened, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Some other concerning issues that we have in the area, Echo Lake, it's about a 70-acre impoundment created by the dam. About 45 of those acres are shown in this first area out back behind us here. It's heavily sedimented. And that sedimentation is really impacting its recreational use and creating some unsightly and kind of smelly algae blooms in the warmer weather summer months. So that's an additional concern with the lake area. So in February of 2021, the City of Burlington hired a consultant to help us research how to bring the dam and the spillway into compliance with our compliance deadline of July of 2025. So with about a year of study now with Ayers Associates, we've conducted a couple of different feasibility studies and come to some pretty interesting conclusions and learned quite a bit. So to begin with, dam modification. One of the things we learned pretty early on is that we can't contain the 500-year flood by doing dam modifications. It would have resulted in massive amounts of structural walls that would have increased the upstream floodplain. It just wasn't going to be feasible. So we started pursuing this concept of dam submergence, kind of the behavior we noticed in 2017 when the floodwaters were bypassing the dam and coming over the earthen berm, well, the downstream waters were so high and swollen from the confluence of the Fox that we had almost essentially submerged our dam at that point. So we can be compliant with DNR regulations if we can show that the spillway can contain the floodwaters up into the point of dam submergence. So with that in mind, we reached out to the DNR, did a lot of modeling with them, and very grateful and thankful for their interaction to try and see if pursuing a project to modify the dam and achieve a submergence level compliance with the floodwaters in the spillway, if that would be feasible. And it turns out it was. So we were able to pull together a project concept plan with some cost estimates. At the same time, because we were doing bathymetric survey and driving around on the lake and taking some soil sediment samples and depth probes, we also did a pre-dredging study. Found some really interesting information about the lake. Going back to the mid-60s, the average depth of Echo Lake was about 4 feet. Right now it's about 1.5 feet. So it looks beautiful, open water, but it's very shallow, which means it's very warm, it's very full of sediment, and we found that that sediment is just full of phosphorus. So in the summer months, stagnant, warm, shallow water with a lot of phosphorus creates a nice green carpet now over in our impoundment. And we need to find a way to resolve that. So we were trying to figure out what would the cost of dredging the lake be and what kind of watershed benefit would it be? Would it create? About 500,000 pounds of phosphorus tied up in the legacy sediment out in the just in the 45-acre portion of the lake between the dam and the rail trestle. So we could do just a remarkable amount of legacy phosphorus removal through a dredging project. And lastly, we studied dam removal as a concept because the easiest way to be in compliance with dam spillway regulations is not to own a dam. So we modeled a couple of different concepts here. The basis for that part of the project was to what is the bare minimum for a dam removal project? You remove the structure, you reestablish the river channel, you perform some restoration around the site. And then, since we're adjacent to a large park, a major tourism venue that we're all sitting in right now, and probably our largest traffic thoroughfare coming through the heart of our city, what could we maybe do with some of that vacated lake impoundment area? Are there some recreational features or open space features that could be added along with a dam removal project to replace, the impact and the wow factor created by an open body of water? What could you do to kind of replace that wow factor in the community, knowing that it's such a vital part of this city, this recreational feature, and this tourism feature? So we just tried to kind of paint a picture to show what that might look like. So the original, I'm just going to run through these options that we presented to the community and the council real quick here. The dam modification project that we presented would achieve compliance by demonstrating dam submergence. The total cost is between 1.5 and 2.6 million. It would go from a single tainter gate to 3 tainter gates and extend a large berm and flood wall through the center of Echo Park. Some of the pros here is that it is able to maintain Echo Lake and the dam, which have become kind of like fixtures of the community. And it only had some pretty minor disruptions to Echo Park. Some of the cons were that it really didn't do anything to address the recreational use or the algae blooms in Echo Lake, and dredging would have to kind of accompany it in order to solve those portions of the problem. And it was more expensive than just the most basic of dam removal projects. A little difficult to tell in the slides here, but in essence, still go from 1 tainter gate to 3 gate bays, replace the section of river wall, have river wall extend along the shore of the lake, and then continue that berm off throughout the park. And by doing those, we are able to hydrologically model dam submergence at the point where this spillway is no longer able to contain floodwaters. So dam removal. This project essentially removes the dam structure, reestablishes a channel for the river, and then restores it at the most basic level. The enhanced version of it had other features, recreational features, and again, we were just trying to paint a picture to the community of what that might look like, knowing that if you give people a blank slate of a large open area and you ask 10 different people, you probably get 10 different ideas of what the best use of that space is. So we just took a stab at it to try and paint that picture. So our consultants came up with something like this with some boardwalk and pedestrian bridges, paths, trails, some fishing, little fishing ponds, kayak launches, and a bunch of other recreational features. It's just a concept level plan. So we presented that to the community, and the Common Council had a robust amount of community engagement, which Alderman Rauch is going to speak to in just a second here. But basically our next steps at this point, we had just submitted a WDNR municipal dam grant for a dam modification project, turned that in early March. But we are still continuing to pursue some design alternatives for dam modification enhancements to the park, and also continuing to design options for dam removal and what that might look like in the space behind us here. There's also a discussion of a referendum of the community to decide which of the two projects to pursue as part of the November 2022 election. So if all those things go according to plan, which they always do in large contentious capital projects, our design and bid would occur in 23, with construction occurring in 24 and 25, and we won't have to ask the DNR for an extension on our 2025 compliance date. So hopefully all of that stuff can happen. And with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Alderman Rauch here to talk about some of our community engagement efforts.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon. I've been an alderman for about 10 years, kind of the last 15 years. And yes, it's true, I do love ribbon cuttings and cupcakes as well. So for community engagement, we've had multiple committee of the whole and city council, common council meetings, which also include a public comment period for any citizen that wants to speak on the dam item or any item for that matter. Peter led 2 community informational meetings in this very building this past winter, where he did essentially the same presentation and did a question and answer session after that. There's been stakeholder meetings with the park board, which is a body of appointed individuals, citizens of the community, and 1 alderman. And also the city has also met with the Veterans Terrace Board for this facility. We've had multiple documents posted on our website for meetings, for summary information, upcoming events, Facebook, social media posts, newsletter articles that are mailed out. There's been the front page of the Burlington Standard Press has been half dozen times at least in the past year. Front page news on dam issues and dam topics. We also did a poll survey, which is an online survey platform. And I'll talk about the results with that in a little bit. And then this one, the other thing is for me, it was informal, I would say informal conversations just around the community, people just calling and talking, and mainly not wanting to know what my opinion was, but wanting to let me know what their opinions and thoughts were on the dam. The poll survey, which was an online, and it had some guidelines that so somebody could not go in and enter, 10 times survey results. It was tied to your email and your ISP address, something like that.
Voter registration.
Voter registration. And so you can see here, so we had citizens, we had town residents, and some we weren't able to identify, but you can see from the results that the city residents that voted in this was about 60%, with only like 60% for modification, which means keep the dam, and only 32% were for a full removal. So that's interesting just because of our community. We have 6,200 registered voters. So of the 416 respondents, that's only 7%, but it's still a significant, I think, result through that. In lessons learned, we've had a lot of contact. Some of it's been, or a lot of it, I would say, those with the same individuals, either pro or against, for modification or for dam removal. And this seems like, I don't know, we've made every opportunity to engage the rest of the community, and people are all aware of the project, but they have just chosen not to engage. And so I guess we'll see what the referendum, if the city council goes forward with a referendum, and that decision would have to be made in August to have it on the November 2022 election.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So I guess just a few of the other lessons learned thus far. So this is kind of interesting presenting this project at a meeting like this, because we're like right in the middle of it. Usually it's, hey, we completed this project. Don't make the same mistakes we did. But we're just in the middle of making our mistakes and successes as we're up here talking. So we're still learning a lot. It was great to hear some of the other completed stories about dam removals, dam modifications that happened. But for us, I think so far, DNR gave us a timeline. I think no matter when you start, you probably would find out that you need more time. So I would urge others who might be starting in on this process to start your process early, start planning for your capital costs, start finding what those funding cycles are, talk to the DNR about their grant opportunities, find out what the grant deadlines are, and kind of reverse engineer that for your meeting schedule, for your approval deadlines. That's very important. Especially if you are considering a referendum, there is a very firmly structured process for binding and non-binding referendums. So if you plan to do that and voter turnout is important to you, scheduling and determining when that referendum might be able to occur, and sequencing that with major elections to try and help your voter turnout to really get the most resident response. Those things are all very important. We have found that to be important. I think our community engagement process has been pretty good overall, and we left a lot of room for that kind of discussion to occur. We knew that was important to the aldermen and the community and other stakeholder groups. So we found a lot of value in that process. And I guess lastly, WDNR involvement has been awesome on this. We have one dam. You enter into a problem like this once in your career, hopefully. But there's folks at the DNR that are knowledgeable about this stuff that have gone through it. They've been really great in helping guide us, point us in the direction, and help us through some of the challenges that we're experiencing. So I can't thank them enough for their assistance. And we have a lot of work to complete over the course of the summer here as we're going through 2 full design projects, or park master planning projects essentially, for this project. And looking forward to being able to present the outcomes of those to the community, I think in late June. So our saga will continue to unfold over the course of the summer here. If anyone should have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out. Steve and I are going to be hanging around here. Love to talk with you, chat with you about your experiences. If you have some words of wisdom or encouragement or ideas for us, all ears, love to hear it. So our contact information is there, and I believe Tom said he'd be providing that after the conference too. All right. So again, thank you so much for coming out to Burlington. Take a look at our dam when you leave. It's neat. Spend some time in the park and let us know what you think. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's thank you again, both Steve and Peter, for that. And we can break, and we have preparation for our keynote in the afternoon. So have another sandwich. There's a bunch of boxes. And please take some home with you if you have to go. And the donuts. And the Kringle. All right. Gain 20 pounds here. Okay. Nice. We got.